Hello and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Stephanie Domerat. Now, in the past few weeks, the city of Portland has taken center stage in the national debate over President Donald Trump's immigration enforcement. City leaders have rejected many of the administration's demands and taken steps to affirm Portland's status as a sanctuary city. That includes passing two proposals this week. City councilors say are aimed at protecting Portlanders from federal overreach. Joining us today to discuss those proposals are Portland City Council President Alana Pertolghini. Pertolghini was elected to represent District 2 on Portland's newly restructured city council last year. She was elected the city's first ever council president in January. Also joining us is City Councilor Candace Avalos. Avalos was elected to represent District 1 last year. Avalos also serves as the chair of the city's Homelessness and Housing Committee. Councilors, thank you so much for being with us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
First, I want to talk about, of course, the Portland City Council unanimously voting to approve two resolutions this week, one called the Protect Portland Initiative, the other to codify the city's status as a sanctuary city. So let's talk about the Protect Portland Initiative first. Now, the two of you, along with two other councilors, introduced this. Councilor Avalos, I want to start with you. Why did you introduce this resolution? I believe you were inspired by something going on in Chicago. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. As we were seeing things unfold across the country, and in particular, Chicago was kind of one of those early flashpoints, Mayor Brandon Johnson announced a Protect Chicago initiative executive order. And so I looked into that and really felt it was a good framework that we could set, not only here in Portland, but I think it could spark a movement across the country for cities to build up the firewalls they need to protect their local sovereignty and protect their residents and community members from federal overreach.
We're seeing a lot of other cities, right? Not just Portland, that are dealing, like you said, Chicago, other cities that are dealing with kind of the federal versus local or state officials and what they say should be done. I want to ask specifically, Council President, what will this resolution, this one resolution, do?
So there's a lot in here, but let me pull just a few things in. It gives us a framework to develop a rapid response program for when we see ICE raids escalate in Portland. It allows us to do that both for the community and also to ensure that we have a plan if city employees are detained during the workday. We know that the administration has detained people who are U.S. citizens, has detained people who are in the process of going through their immigration work, so we need to be worrying about that as well. It directs the police department to add on to the work that they are already doing to ensure that they know when federal agents are working in our city, and make sure that we not only are asking federal agents who are here, who are you working for, what are you doing here, but also tracking those incidences. And when we can't verify what federal agency a law enforcement officer is working for, make sure that we actually go through that process of investigating who this person is and what they're doing on our streets so that we can keep people safe in our community. Those are just two of the, a dozen or more things that we cover in the resolution.
Councilor, did you want to add to that of some of the other things it will do?
Yeah, I think ultimately it's also about ensuring that the community and the city employees all have similar protocols and understanding for what to do when interacting with the federal government, protecting our residents from getting, from the federal government getting our information, so protecting our privacy, things like that. And in general, you know, we have a city of 7,000 employees, and we needed to be speaking with one voice clearly so everyone understood what the game plan is. So that's a lot of what we are explaining in the resolution.
By this passing unanimously, what did that say to you, and what do you think it says outward to people beyond Portland? Let's start with you.
We've had a lot of conversations over the last month about how our city can step up and respond to the federal administration's overreach and, frankly, inappropriate focus on Portland. And this is the first step in taking action together. We know that the entire city council stands for common values that Portlanders share, and we needed to show Portlanders that we were acting as one united body. Obviously, there are different approaches that different councilors are considering right now, but we knew that these two items, we would be able to say to Portland, we are on the same page, standing up for our community's values.
So one component in the resolution was a multilingual public education campaign, right, with community outreach. I I want to ask, for those who support stricter federal immigration enforcement, why is it appropriate for the city, which isn't part of immigration enforcement, to be involved in this sort of a way?
I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where you come from or what you look like. If you have 2 feet in this country, you have rights. There are laws. And it is our duty as a city to enforce our own laws by codifying sanctuary status. We are putting another layer of protection for our ability to govern in the way that we were elected to. So I think at the end of the day, we believe it's our duty to protect Portlanders' rights, and that's what we're doing in these through these measures.
Councilor Perligini, did you have anything to add to that?
I just want to pull one piece that Councilor Avalos talked about, which is that we have a duty to make sure that Portlanders understand their rights. And that's what this piece of the resolution is about. It is our job as the city government to make sure that Portlanders understand what the laws are, what their responsibilities are, what their rights are. And in order to make sure that everyone in our community has that information at a time when, frankly, immigration enforcement is looking a little bit different than it has in the past. That's a very important role for us to play as leaders in our community.
So we've heard reports from people saying there are increased ICE arrests or agent presence around the city of Portland. Have either of you heard that from people in your district?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we heard just from yesterday there was about 17 new arrests, and we also saw that there was a bigger bus that they brought into the ICE facility. So they were operating on these geo vans. Now they have these geo buses that can have capacity for 20 to 30 people. So that to us is a signal that they intend to ramp up their detentions, and we are seeing an increase in calls to the Portland Immigration Rights Coalition about these increased kidnappings.
When did this start happening that you think you're seeing an increased presence, or you've heard reports of that?
I've heard an increase over really just the last few days. We had expected, as more federal agents have been coming into our city, that this would happen eventually, but it's really been within this last week that I have been hearing more from community about seeing enforcement officers in community, seeing more people being detained.
Something that stood out to me in the resolution was part of how to investigate potential crimes by impersonators of ICE agents. Are you seeing that happen right now in our neighborhoods? People impersonating agents?
We haven't heard reports of that yet in Portland at this time. We know that's something that has happened in the past, and we know that's something that folks have been very concerned with in other communities. We need to get ahead of that here, right? We need to have plans in place before it's an issue.
What are you hearing, Councilor?
Yeah, also that we haven't heard any specific instances of that happening, but it is happening across the country. And ultimately, we're concerned that people are afraid to use our services, including our police, to call for help because they're worried about a possible interaction with ICE. And so it's important to understand who are the local officials and what their responsibilities are, and not have those cross over into federal duties.
Is there a way that the city is tracking ICE arrests that are happening across the city? Is that something that's part of this resolution or that you've been doing already?
This resolution doesn't ask our city government to track ICE arrests. That is something that many of our nonprofit organizations, the partners who we have been working with to make sure that we are filling in the gaps in our current laws, have been doing. And it is, I think, a really important piece of the work. The city government is not going to be able to do everything. We need to fill in where we can, and one of those places is tracking federal agents, including ICE agents' interactions with Portlanders, which is part of what we're asking the police to do in a more comprehensive way.
So as of this taping, I want to let viewers know it's Thursday afternoon. This issue is constantly evolving, and of course the Ninth Circuit is expected to issue a ruling on a restraining order blocking the Trump administration's deployment of National Guard troops to Portland. During last week's hearing, Judge Nelson made a comment about Portland's handling of the ICE building, specifically referencing how windows were at some point earlier this year boarded up to protect the building, and that the city of Portland slapped them with a zoning violation. Here's what he had to say. He asked the attorney for the state of Oregon.
So they reopened the building. They board the windows for protection. And what does the city of Portland do? They issue a zoning violation. Are you defending issuing a zoning violation, telling them to take off the boards that were put up to respond to protesters? Do you think that that was maybe ill-advised?
So in hindsight, do you think that the city's approach about the zoning violation of boarding up the windows maybe was an appropriate response in this situation?
So the way that zoning enforcement works in the city is largely complaint driven, and my understanding is that we received a complaint about the boards on the windows. That is a violation of our zoning requirements. That was investigated. It was found that there was a violation, and at that point we have to issue that finding.
So what do you think, Councilor?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, those land use things are really finicky and really they're super limited in what we can actually do, and we just have to follow the book of the law. So that was kind of a pretty simple procedural thing. I understand the implication in the question or in the comments from the judge, but as far as we're concerned, it was procedural.
We only have about 30 seconds, so I want to ask about the codifying the sanctuary status. Why do that at this time, Councilor Avalos?
Yeah, I'm really happy that Councilor Canal and I and others co-sponsored this to be able to really put into our code, into our law, so that it is enforceable by law, what those protections are for our city. And so we felt that it complemented the Protect Portland initiative really well, which really kind of wraps its arms around all of the different kinds of codes and laws that we need to implement to continue to protect against Trump, because this is just the beginning. Yeah.
Councilors, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us.